Welcome back to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio. And today we're diving into the world of experimentation. Our guest, Kate O'Keefe, the CEO and co-founder of Heatseeker, is here to tell us all about her career and the company. Kate has an incredible background. She spent a decade in Silicon Valley, leading Cisco's global co-innovation lab. She helped Fortune 100 companies move to startup speed. She was a partner at BCG advising boards, and now she's with Heatseeker, the company that's helping other companies like KPMG and HelloFresh test and validate value propositions, marketing strategies, and product concepts. It's a very interesting conversation and where we'll understand Kate's perspective on the industry, but also how Heatseeker is doing things differently and the lessons that Kate learned from Silicon Valley and what she implemented on the company. I hope you learned something new, but now without further ado, here's Kate and her story. So, hi Kate. I want to start by talking about Heatseeker, and I want to know what it makes it different from the traditional A/B testing. What drove you to start the company, to work on it, to work on this project? Tell me everything. How did it all start?
Yeah. So Heatseeker is the world's first market experiments platform. So I come from a startup background, couple time founder before I started Heatseeker. And I've always been drawn to running experiments like live in the market as a amazing way to like derive insights, get the information I need to move faster. And I've always found that, whether I was creating a small startup for myself or creating like a brand for a really big company, which was my job when I was a partner at BCG Digital Ventures. I always found that when I had really great experiment data, like really great, I guess, evidence that everybody could agree with and understand, we could all move faster. And my time in really big enterprises, I spent sort of 10 years in Silicon Valley at a really big tech company called Cisco. And we would spend so much time getting buy-in and bringing people on the journey and convincing people. Oh my God, Antonio, convince, 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 convince. And so what I found is when I had really great data, I went out to 1,000 people, I presented them all with, the prototype and this was the response. Like when I could make it compelling enough, we could all go a lot faster. With some of the new technology available with AI and other pieces, it really struck me that there was an opportunity to create a platform that delivers experiments for you. Like there's a couple of platforms out there that will like interpret your experiments but like very few that will take your growth question, which is what we do. Any question you have from like outset to optimization. I want to know customer pain points, customer jobs to be done. Like I need to know different buying drivers. I need to find different segments. I need to confirm value props. I need to order my product roadmap. I need to find the best gift with purchase. I need to test the price. I need to all the way through that journey. There's an experiment for that. And so we work across that whole spectrum and we help our customers, our users, build up a corpus of data that they can use and learn from, like any other market research methodology. But what is different is that because of the quality of data that we have, it's always statistical significance. It's all perfectly variable controlled. Our users are able we're able to synthesize for our users that data. So we're able to create synthetic market experiments that are between 80 to 90% correlated to real world experiments. And our users drive that correlation. So they're in charge of their own data. They run more experiments when their synthetics, get uncorrelated or get cold, as we call it. So that's what Heatseeker is. We're all about helping you with better data that's based on real behavior in the marketplace rather than speculative behavior through surveys and panels and other methodologies. And through our synthetic technology, we can give you answers pretty much real time, incredibly low cost, so that you can ask any question you like really in the middle of a meeting. And you can move faster because you don't have to argue as much. You don't have to convince anybody. You can just run it by your synthetic panel, which is a digital twin of your audience, and get an answer that's super correlated to a real world response. So that's what Heatseeker is about.
That's so cool. So basically, you ask the questions and you're pretty much sure that you have the right answers when you ask the platform.
Exactly.
Do you think?
Exactly.
Do you, Do you think the industry should be more experiment driven and not just like data driven? Because nowadays people are just like data, data, data. But do you
Yeah.
think the industry should more experiment more?
Yes. So there's a couple of reasons why I think that. Like, I also use great data and I also ingest data from, say, your performance marketing, to help speed up the warming up of your synthetics. So first party data is amazing. I'm all for it. It's fantastic. Couple things that it doesn't give you. Often you don't get your hands on that kind of data until sort of post launch, until you're seeing how things are performing. What experiments allow you to do is really early in your journey, you're able to start pulling in data, like on things like customer jobs to be done, customer pain points, like long before you have anything in the market, you should be getting an enormous amount of data from those customers, and you can get that through experiments. The other thing that even post launch, the other thing that experiment will give you is you can pull from a huge subset of options rather than, "Oh, let's just test what's on the truck. I want to do a gift with purchase, with my bundles, with my subscription bundles. There's 8 things we offer now. Let's test, one or two more." We can be testing hundreds and hundreds of different options to see what really lights those audiences. And you don't have to test them right at the bottom of the funnel, like by actually offering them in the real world. We can experiment with either an incognito brand or using your synthetics so that you can experiment with 400 or 4,000 different possible gifts with purchase without taking that hit to EBIT, like without like testing at the bottom of the funnel, and you can be a lot more exploratory with what you offer to your customers. And so we think that that's incredibly powerful.
And it's also a nice way to reduce the risk and almost to accelerate like the decision making of the whole process of, I feel like that's such a great thing to do.
Yeah. And I think this is not a technique that will be new to a lot of folks in your audience, Antonio. Lots of us are doing A/B testing. I think what's different about what we're doing is that we're starting like really early in the journey, at like whilst you're still being super exploratory. It is quite unusual to like A/B test a job to be done, like which is a very common experiment, or A/B test like a buying driver by a segment, or use A/B tests to identify segments. So those things are unusual. But I do want to say, like, you don't have to, get the Heatseeker platform for that. Like, if you're a craftsman when it comes to running great like A/B and fake door tests, you have all the technology you need to really expand the aperture, start experimenting earlier. And as long as you don't mind fiddling with the CSV files that you get out of social media, and as long as you're really good at like bucking the algorithm and making sure that it's giving you sort of perfect equality, across the number of impressions that you're getting, then you have everything you need to be building up a corpus of data, experimentation data on your own. And what you'll find is two things. You get the right answer. It's just much more accurate, right? Than what any of us are used to before this happens. So you'll get the right answer, and you'll create a culture of experimentation and de-risking in your team. And your team will move faster because you don't have to argue or convince as much. No one's guessing. Like, frequently we find we're not really competing against like big market research studies. What we're competing with is people guessing. Like, in the moment, their agency's just given them 6 different pieces of advertising creative to choose from, and they choose, quote unquote. I'm on a podcast. I shouldn't be using my fingers here, but I've got my little air quotes here going. You choose, but really you're guessing. Like, unless you're the target market and unless you personally represent, like a statistically significant portion of that target market, you are guessing. And you don't have to do that anymore. You can just, run an experiment, either live or synthesized, to see, what each of the segments that you're buying media for will respond to. And that's just one use case, of course, of many.
So great. I want to talk about something that you mentioned like at the start of the conversation. You worked in Silicon Valley, and my experience and idea is that Silicon Valley is like a place where everything moves really fast. Everything starts one day and then the other it's completely different. Everything moves so fast, from the companies, from the people, and also from the technology and everything. What was your experience of working in Silicon Valley, and what did that experience brought you to Heatseeker? What did you bring from working there to and that you applied in Heatseeker?
Yeah. I mean, probably the best thing I pulled from that experience was this sort of hacking. How fast can we prototype something? Like literally, like how I remember when I was at Cisco. For those of you who don't know, Cisco is like the world's biggest networking hardware company and the biggest. I think they're still the biggest, like, vendor of like security, products in the world, services in the world. And I remember I would literally like role play, like, you over there, you're a packet of data. You walk over there, you jump over that guy, he's going to lie down, he's a firewall, right? Like, that's how lo-fi you can prototype. And it's amazing how when we create something in the real world, we take it off the page, we take it out of the paragraph, we take it out of a slide, and we bring it into the real world, how it completely changes like our understanding of what we're all talking about. And we can all agree because we can see it. And it's quite transformational in that way. So while I was in the Valley, I ran innovation at Cisco. And what I would do is I would build prototypes, not all of them like role plays, physical hack together. My team would work all night and we'd build these prototypes. And then we would have a bullpen of end users. So we would have 30, 40, 60 end users physically in the room for a couple of days. And every hour or so, we would expose these prototypes that we were building often with some of Cisco's biggest partners and customers. Apple was one, Walgreens was another, UCSF was another. And so we, as builders, as innovators, we would put these prototypes together and we would share them with our end users. And what we found is two things. You get the right answer. And the second is that you can all agree. We all just heard the three customers that we shared this prototype with absolutely hated it, like hated it. So there's no point. You can stop arguing. You can stop like carrying on about how much you think this is what we ought to build. We've all seen that this thing needs to die a painful death, an immediate death. But if we tweak this and that, we'll do that over the next hour, we can expose it again to end users. So again, you've got the right answer and you got this incredible capacity for a diverse group of people across the Valley, lots of big egos. They could all agree because we all just saw the data. We saw, how they responded to that prototype in real time. And so when I left Cisco, I couldn't let go of this itch. Like, how do you industrialize? How do you scale that kind of idea? And you can't always have 40 to 60 end users live in the room. And when you do, you've recruited them, you're paying them, they're grumpy because they're eating stale sandwiches. It's not the same as, when they're real buyers. So what Heatseeker does is give you that scaled up capacity whereby, we take your growth question, like what's the most important buying driver for this segment? We prototype 5, 6, 12 ads. The prototypes are ads in this case. We present those ads to the marketplace on social media. We see how those ads perform, and then we bring you back all of the insights of what we found. Like, this buying driver is the most important for this particular segment, but this other one suits this other segment. And so we've managed to not only find a way to prototype rapidly, social media has replaced recruitment, like of end users who are participants in a study. And of course, it's superior because they're not being paid for their opinion. They're self-nominating as a buyer in the space because they're clicking on an ad and they're leaving their details. So, there's a lot of layers by which this technique is even better than what I was doing when I was, in like the heartland of tech. And so now we've, democratized that. We've made it available to everybody. And through synthetics, we're also able to do it in real time. So most live experiments on Heatseeker take like 5, 6, 7 days, which is already awesome to go from growth question to statistically significant data with what your answer is. But of course, once your synthetics are warmed up, you can have at it, in as little as 4 or 5 minutes, you can get an answer to your question. Does this segment prefer this value prop or that value prop? Or do they care most about, this feature or that feature? We can give you those answers in minutes. And so live in the meeting, you can get the responses that you need to keep moving, which I think will help everybody build faster.
That's incredibly fast. I wasn't aware that it was that fast. Heatseeker started in Australia, right? And now you're
Yeah.
expanding to the US, to Europe. How
Yes.
is this growing globally, and what's the biggest challenge that you've encountered so far?
Yeah. So, how's this? It's an amazing time to be in the marketing craft. Like, I don't care what part of the business you're in, nobody is more affected by changes to technology as the marketing team is right now. I mean, sure, the engineering team are going faster, thanks to coding tools or whatever, but nothing is as seismically affected as marketers, the different various crafts that sit within that group. And so it's a great time for there to be new behaviors introduced because they're hungry, they're under pressure. What we're seeing is that marketing teams are being made smaller, but their budgets are going up. So they're bringing in, the tooling they need to move faster, be hyper personalized. We're also seeing, because their budgets are going up, their influence is also going up. So their influence across the business, their influence at board, their capacity to impact the products being built is higher because great marketers, great CMOs are doing a great job in like weaponizing the data that they have access to, and they get access to it first. They can see early how things are performing. And so we're just this completely different and additional and supplemental data source that they have at their disposal. Like, how do I know that this is the right answer? Because I tested 60 different options, and this was by far the best resonating, with the highest value segment that we have at our disposal. And that's the kind of insight and the kind of data that is really supporting, this shift that marketing is going through. So look, it's a really exciting time to be serving those leaders and building this product shoulder to shoulder with those, great CMOs that are really more than ever becoming the insight engine room, the chief meaning officer, if you like, of the modern business, right? Because they're bringing in all this information from outside. They're going to bring it in. They got to work out how to leverage it to help the business to scale, influence product, influence how we're selling to people. And so it's just been a real privilege to build something at this time when expectations are changing, behaviors are changing. The insight officer that they have, within the marketing team, their role is different. They're under a lot of pressure to be leveraging the new tools and techniques to help everybody make better decision, and again, influence the broader business with that data. And the craft of PMM obviously has risen so dramatically in the last 5 years, and they don't even have a tool of record. Like, we like to think it's a tool like Heatseekers that allows you to sort of test and learn messaging, features, benefits. And right now, they don't have a tool that sits at the heart of the craft of a PMM. And so it's an incredible time to build to serve these teams because they're moving so quickly, and the capabilities that they're bringing in are so different and so new.
Well, one final question. We were talking about before we started recording, and I told you like we have from the newcomers to the industry, from the universities to
Yeah.
the C suites. If you could have one advice for everyone in the industry, what would the advice be?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if like to folks who are super new, just starting out, like all the way to the C suite to the board, my one insight that they can use is that better decision making through better data is the bedrock of a great career. Like, whether you're in this job or the next job or the job after, it's not just the fact that you've got the best decision or the best idea, it's your ability to sell it. And the best way to sell it is through being quant backed, getting your idea, getting the proof of your idea. And whether it's a tool like Heatseeker, or whether you're hacking together an experiment on social media yourself, or whether, like me back in the day, you're hacking together a prototype and you've got a bullpen of end users that you've brought in and everybody's watching it, no matter how you get your prototype, like the lowest cost possible to prove your assumption, as fast as you can get that in front of those users, is going to be how fast you can go, because you'll get the data, everyone will see it, everyone will believe you, and you'll go faster. So it's like this double barrel influence. Like you get the right answer, and then you get like the ability for everybody to believe in your vision and for everybody to come with you. And so that's been a real key unlock for me, and a key unlock for anyone on their career trajectory.
There you go. Thank you so much, Kate, for your time. Thank you so much for the conversation and for the inspiration. I think it's a wonderful story and trajectory you've made so far, and the company is great, is in a great shape, and I wish you all the success for the future and for Heatseeker.
Thanks, Antonio.
And that's all for today. Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you so much for you listening to this episode. We'll be coming back next week with another conversation and another insightful episode. But until then, the rest of a good day. Bye.